I was at the auction, I passed. 6 months later, this shows up at 11 miles.
Oh!
Wow. It had been hiding in the corporate offices and nobody had said a poop about it. And so I jumped on it.
Kind of like a Zen Master Jedi. Like always at the right place at the right time.
I assure you, I have a long list of friends and acquaintances that have beaten me.
I see. I'm glad I know you.
So, at any rate, I got to buy it. And I just thought, cool paint job, all that stuff. I ride it occasionally. I've got another 1100S at home that has the high bars and the high windshield. And I'm a short guy. It's a tall seat.
Yeah.
The other bars and all help. But I wasn't expecting to make it a special ride it on these specific days.
Sure, yeah.
But either the second or third year that I had it, the anniversary of 9/11 came on. I wasn't conscious of that on that Sunday morning when I got to go for a ride. There's a vintage event that's held at Vermont, Maryland. And I thought, I'll ride something newer versus older. We have bikes that show up out of the teens up there. It's a pretty cool collection of bikes. So I just go up there, have a nice 2-hour ride on back roads up here, park my bike, hanging out looking at other people's bikes. And at some point I realized that the side of the parking lot of mine was pretty empty of people. And I turn around and there's like 75 people gathered around this thing.
Wow.
WTF. The bike is cool, but I don't, I'm looking at all these bikes going, it's not this special.
Right.
And so I walk over and goes, all right, thanks for the help. Why is this taking place? And they said, no, today is. And I said, yes. It's the vintage. It's Sunday. Yeah, it's also 9/11. And so that was what sort of triggered me to say, okay, I need to make sure I take this out on certain days.
Yes.
It's been fun. And I go out and put 25 or 50 miles on it. This year I think it was 51.7.
Oh yeah.
And it hurt. That was 3 stretches. My knee doesn't bend quite like that at the moment. But I was not, I figure I'm not going to get to do this again until next year. So again, I thought this was the last of the 3 and the only good one cosmetically. And I was contacted by a seller, son of a father who had passed away. He said he had one of these. And I said, if it's one of the ones from auction, unless you want to give it away so somebody can have a race bike, I'm really not interested. They're trash. He says, this one's in pretty spectacular cosmetic condition. And I'm going, I need pictures. He said, better than that, I can bring it to you. I'm only 3 hours away.
Whoa.
So he brought it down, and sure plan a trip to Germany. They take a bunch of dealers along. A friend and fellow dealer at Irv Sievers in California named Evan Bell had found an R32 to buy also. And on the morning of this event, they're staging it. Michael Bondi is taking pictures of the R60/5 that this guy had planned to trade for. He chose not the most expensive bike they gave, but a bike that he felt was commensurate with his riding skills and his desires. And in Germany, you pay a lot more in taxes and insurance, going from 600 to 750. And the police were running 500s at the time, both the pre-70 and the post-70 bikes. So this whole thing is happening. And while Michael is taking pictures, he tells Dr. Adams that he can't do the trade. And you know, people are freaking out. And he says, no, still get the bike. I just hope you would write me a check for this bike costs. And so they rounded out the check and wrote him a check for $2,000.
Wow.
That's a great deal. The emblems would be worth more than that.
These have gotten, I'm pleased to say that I was in the right place at the right time. So the rest of this
J-like trade. I'm telling you.
is a story. that,
So your dealership and your auto thing is just a way to get past time from your collection.
I've been a collector all my life. I
Yeah.
collect other things too, but the bike thing hit me pretty hard. But I think we put equal passion into the dealership that I put in this, but this allows me to be one of the few, rare, small group of dealers that is having as much fun in this business as their customers are. This is not about making money. I don't mind admitting that there's a living, breathing 401k. If you collect right, you're not supposed to keep stuff until you die. You're supposed to find the next home for things and carry the tradition on. So I've got a plan. We'll see if we get to put it in action. But when Butler and Smith forced when BMW North America forced Butler and Smith out of the business, it was very ugly. They were throwing things in dumpsters. They were having fire sales. A lot of the paper on this wall came from a good friend of mine that lived close. They had good connections with the marketing people, and they called him up and said they're about to throw a couple hundred pounds of paper in the dumpster. If you can get here quick enough, you can get it. I literally paid for one of his kids' year of college. I mean, I saw a lot of duplicates and flat files with some of the stuff on the walls, and but he saved it. He got the original artwork for that ad sitting behind the wheel there. And so this bike sort of vanished off the planet at that point in time. Everyone assumed that Dr. Adams put it someplace. BMW was so ruthless, they said, that bike is ours, even though it's a completely private company. They were forcing them out of business. And I think Adams pretty much told them to go screw themselves. But for 25 years, nobody knew where this bike was. Well, Dr. Adams was a very good businessman. He was not a motorcyclist. Helmut Kearns was the motorcyclist of the two. He was responsible for the West Coast operations. He was responsible for the R90S becoming a race bike after it was designed and winning at Daytona and all that stuff. And so he was the technical genius on the motorcycle nut. And Dr. Adams took Helmut Kearns and 7 other people from Butler and Smith who he deemed not only his best employees in a variety of areas, but also people that were willing to work for him no matter what he did. And he came from a very industrialist family. They built cargo ships, is one of the things they did. And he bought an enormous printing operation, commercial printing. Think Lay's potato chips bags and Lifesaver rolls, anything that was being produced in the hundreds of millions up in New Jersey. And that's where they all were, and that's where this bike was for 25 years. The R2 downstairs, when we get to the back, was the bike that a longtime friend sent me a few Polaroids and says, my boss is closing his business, selling his business. We've got this bike sitting in the staff break room. Are you interested? And it was an okay R2, but it wasn't perfect. And we went around in circles for months, and eventually I got the phone call that says, we're going to be out of this building in a few days. If you want to look at this bike, you got to do it in the next couple of days. We're coming up on July 4th. So I make the trip to New Jersey. And the day before, in the afternoon, I am told, by the way, there's another bike here. So make sure you come prepared to consider a second bike. I said, the R32? And he says, yes, the R32. Wow. So all these people kept this bike quiet for 25 years. It was in his office. That office is half the size of the second floor. My friend sat on this bike once a week, reporting what his department had done for the last week. 25 years. So basically they were giving me first right of refusal. And the day unfolded unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. I got up there at 30. I was welcomed like a traveling dignitary. They were expecting me. And they immediately told me that Dr. Adams has been delayed. The people that were buying his company had showed up unexpectedly at 7 in the morning, half an hour before me, to interview people, to find out who's staying and who's going, because they had just let the cat out of the bag about the transaction on the business. And they said, we hope you'll get to see him. Helmut Kearns can spend plenty of time with you. We'll turn you loose. You can look at the bike, do your thing, do all your research, and then we'll get you together and you can talk. And by noon, I haven't even seen Dr. Adams. I've spent a couple of hours doing all my stuff, and I've spent a couple of hours sitting in a conference room reading the book, having my sandwich, and Helmut Kearns comes back in and says, it'll be soon, it'll be soon. Can you hang around for a couple more hours? And I said, yeah, because I've come this far. So he left and the light bulb went off, and I said, I'm not sure I'm going to get in front of this guy. So I may be leaving here with nothing. I need to give him something. And so I really wrote out a handwritten essay that's 4.5 pages long, 4 pages of words about who I am and what this business was, and
Why?
I mean, every possible sales pitch that I could put into, possibly he might read over dinner tonight. And on the last page, I put down numbers for this, for the R2, for some other things they had shown me, and I had the balls or gall to draw a line, and then the package price.
Wow.
And I was 100% sure that I could name at least 12 people that day that would have doubled the number I could pay. You have what you have to spend. And so I gave it to Helmut Kearns, and I said, let me know when he has a chance to read it, and we'll talk. And 45 minutes later, he comes back in and says, Dr. Adams been in? And I said, no. He said, let's go over to his office. So we're back in his office. He's got this gargantuan desk. It really was that's 10 feet. It was an 8-foot desk. I've never seen an office desk quite that big, and there wasn't a lot on it. But again, it's a big office, so I guess you do things to scale. And Helmut and I are in there talking. Adams comes in, and he immediately walks around to his side of the desk, the power position, and introduces himself. We shake hands, and he says, so Helmut says you're prepared to write a check for this bike. How's the transaction going to go? I said, I've got this much cash, and I'll write a check for the rest. And he says, okay. And he's on his way out of the office. And I'm not even quite sure what is taking place here. And I said, hang on a second. I think you just said yes. He said, I did. And he said, can I get a quick picture of you with the bike? And he said, sure. So I took 2 35mm shots, both like that. And he vanished, and he said, I'll be happy to talk to you in a couple of weeks. And Helmut says, well, it's getting late in the day. It's July 3rd. It's a Friday. I'm sure you want to be getting home. I had a 4-hour drive. And so I had a Dodge Caravan at the time, family vehicle, pulled all the seats out of it. We get the R2 and we had to bring this down with a freight dolly because the rear tire was dead as a doornail. And we get that in, and Helmut says, come on back to my office. I got some other stuff for you. So we're sitting in his office. Downstairs, you'll see the trophy from the Daytona races that BMW won. It was literally in a closet for 25 years. And along with a bunch of other stuff, there's a final drive cutaway. And I said, so I got one burning question here. I've just given you a bunch of cash and a check. And I said, so what was it? Were the numbers right? Was the essay right? The combination? He says, I'll have to call you next week. And I said, why is that? He says, because he hasn't seen it yet. And I go, what do you mean he hasn't seen it? And he said, he simply asked me if it was the right person.
That's nice.
So
I was meeting you. He felt
I almost couldn't keep my ass in the chair in the seat driving home that day. So, because as I said, I'm sure that people would have doubled my offer at least that day. So I got to be the next good home.
Okay.
And so it's been an honor to share it, and one day I'll have to do the same thing.
Right. Right.
It's just amazing.
Amazing.
Shaft driven back in 20.
And so there's one piece under this covering that I can share with you. So modern BMWs are pretty complicated. You know, there's a lot of computer technology involved these days. But all through the airheads, BMW's goal, and even with the modern stuff, their goal was to still make them as easy to work on as possible for technicians and for owners, where viable. There have been a few misses there, you know, cutting a bike in half to replace a clutch is not something even we like. But back here,
Yeah.
in this era, you know, from teens through maybe the
Yeah.
late 20s, you had to do carbon heads pretty regularly because gas is bad, compression's low, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Earlier stuff, I've got a 1913 Indian single cylinder at home. The owner's manual says every 500 miles. Take the heads off, decarbon them, put it back on. So as an enthusiast, you were either at the dealership a lot, and half the bikes back then weren't even sold through dealers. They were shipped to your door in pieces, and you put them together with the owner's manual.
Yeah.
But, so this is how you, there's two things here. This is how you get to adjust the valves.
The bush ropes covered.
Yep. All right. All right there.
Wow.
Wow.
And then there was a special wrench here,
Oh,
so you could look at the top of the valves
oh, wow.
and see if they needed attention.
Oh, wow.
So is that like, it doesn't have any rocker, I don't know, it's direct
That's
push.
it, just short, right there.
Wow.
Very simple
Pretty
technology.
clever, yeah.
Was
No
So
rocker.
the 25 got, the rear brake is essentially the same on the first 2 years, glorified bicycle brake. The first 2 years didn't have a brake. 25 got the drum brake up front. There's not a lot there, but it's better than none at all.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is technically the...
I'm even slower on upstairs. So we got through all that
Got a
stuff.
lot of conditions.
Well,
You gotta get what you
we
gotta
got
get.
through all that stuff, we kept talking, and we had helped her identify dealers on both coasts. We were really the last dealer of this tour.
Not even a backrest.
And, well, Trump sort of.
Yeah, and the jacket's the right,
Yes.
jacket's the cushion.
And
That maximized.
maybe 6 months before she is due, Bob's, the dealership, has the good fortune to buy just a everyday R60/6 of the right year from a local customer who was the original owner. And we hadn't washed it, and I looked at this bike after, and I'm the one that took it in, and I said, you know what, we should just park it in the back and keep it the way it is, so Elsbeth has a backdrop. Okay, that was the original plan. Just backdrop for Elsbeth, make it easy, we'll sell it, you know, when we're all done. And then we get about a month out, and maybe 6 weeks, and I had just come back from New York, a friend, longtime friend, fellow dealer, who had retired some years earlier, had passed away. Life's like that. He lived a long time. His wife, he had told his wife that when I'm gone and Bob's still around, call Bob. He'll come in and he'll sort all the stuff out for you and make you a fair offer. And so it took her 3 years to finally bring herself to do that. But he had a barn garage size place full of bikes and sidecars and parts. There was a British side too that I hooked her up with someone else on. And one of the things I brought back and almost didn't was that pair of cylinder guards. They didn't come in with the bike because they were sort of rough and rusty and all that stuff. They have the exact brand of cylinder guards that are on your bike. So one little piece there, and I said, oh, you know what? I could throw an old Harrow tank bag on there. And then we get within about a month, and I said, you know, just without the luggage, it's not the same thing, you know, what we're doing for a poster. So the staff thought I was completely out of my mind. My wife was positive, and because I spent almost 3 days on that project. And I said we wanted it to be a surprise, so I couldn't call up or email Elsbeth and said, give me all the dimensions. So I had to sort of guess from pictures. And this had a mount, had a sit and rest where that was bolted in place. But the only thing I emailed her for is that I can't read what's on the left side that I am on the, and I couldn't replicate all of her decals, but we sort of went with something that looks like it and decided to put some of her earlier pictures on it. And we had this under cover when she showed up, and we did a coffee with Elizabeth. So we started out here in the museum for the first 2 hours and went back across the street. We ended up with a standing room only crowd. We had about 200 people. It was made. She sold out a book so quickly, and the line literally went back to the coffee station from the other side of the front door. It was a fabulous day. But so I was still closing up down here when she went up to the shop with a bunch of customers. And as they're getting things started, she goes, "What's under the cover?" And they pull it off, and I don't have the video.
Tears.
Oh, she had tears pouring down her face. It was pretty remarkable. So
Is that her on this?
that's her on this bike.
So cool.
And much to my pleasant surprise, Dimensions were good. She actually fit it perfectly. So,
Dang, way to go.
so right now there is a show of women world travelers at the Peterson Museum in California, and Elizabeth, because they wanted to have Elizabeth's bike there, and they were going to ship her bike over from England, and they wanted my cardboard luggage, and I said, sorry. I said, Paul d'Orleans is the guy that runs the show there. He says they're fragile. I mean, I've already got to have to re-glue and resurface some of the images. I said, I don't, even if I made the wooden crate, I just don't trust it to go and come back, let alone be there for a 10-month show. I said, I'm honored, I'd love to help you, but I can't do that. And then he said, well, maybe we should just ship your whole bike out and we'll compensate you. And I said, same problem, and I'm without a display that I love sharing for the next year. So eventually I spent a couple hours over here taking pictures of every dimension. They found a R60/6, not as good as this one, but one that would fill the need, and they had a local fabricator make the boxes out of aluminum.
Sweet.
So I'm told that I might get the bags when they're all done.
Yeah.
Nice,
So
nice.
we'll see. I'm sort of fond of my cardboard creation here. But,
Zen master.
and so tell their guests, treat things respectfully, and then you don't have ropes and glass cases and all that other stuff. So the grips on this bike are pretty old.
Yeah.
There are grips on bikes that are much older. So I ask people not to go over and go, what does it feel like? Because
Yeah.
if you look close, you'll see something I've got to make a decision on. Maybe it's time to replace those.
Yep.
There's lots of things in display cases. There's a story for everything in this building, which what collections are all about. I can't possibly tell them all in one visit.
No, I don't think so.
And so a couple of other pieces. The second door on the right is a restroom. Whoever used it first, the flusher is a little bit stiff, but it works just fine. I used it the other day. There's a guest book just past the blue elephant on the left on the counter. I love it when people sign in. And if you truly legibly put your email address in there, I will send everyone a picture of the group of you I'm going to take somewhere, probably upstairs, to you, and I'll do a blind copy, so I'm not sharing with everyone. We don't use it for marketing purposes. It's just a way to know who came and to share and send. And there are 2 floors here. We'll start upstairs. There's more upstairs than there is downstairs.
Wow.
And we have purposely mixed up eras of things. One of the things I've noticed in a lot of museums, and the first time we set this building up and we had it across the street, we would group stuff by era. Okay, it makes sense in most cases, except with BMW, it'd be like old Ford collection. There's a whole lot of black for a long time before you get to any colors. And we discovered that not only did the colors help break up and add some interest, but it also helps people see how similar things are, even though they're very different. And many, but not all, the bikes have a little disc sign either attached to it or on the stand.
Nice.
Those are the tip of the iceberg. We're working on completing that. So again, let's go upstairs. We'll have some fun. I will tell the first story because it's the oldest bike we have. It's BMW's first bike. After that, what I like is for people to go, tell me about this. And again, it could be something in a display case that caught your eye. It could be a poster on a wall, because it's a lot of advertising on
Yeah, and I was gonna ask him.
motorcycle.
Yeah.
But I like to find out what people like.
Isn't a version of this, is version of this still made, or is this a prototype?
So
They made those in Europe,
that's
right?
both a production model and a prototype. The C1 was produced, we'll start with this one. The C1 was produced for about 4.5 years in Germany, and they had hoped to export it to the United States. But the complicated story as to why they didn't bring it into the States. In Europe, they were granted a new vehicle classification, okay? Because that is essentially half car, half motorcycle. There's a roof, there's a full roll cage, there's a 5-point seat belt there. It was designed with new vehicle classification, allowed people to ride it just as you see with a baseball cap and no riding gear.
The crash protection was fantastic.
I'm sorry?
The crash protection was
Right,
fantastic.
the front fender is actually a bumper. It has ABS brakes. I witnessed one of my fellow dealers who was not as skilled as he thought he was go down in a traffic circle in Spain because he was going too slow and a car ran into him. Car's fault, but we all think he caused it. But we watched him literally spin around and slide through this intersection. He was dressed like the rest of us. I was one of the few people that got to wear a hat because I have a lot of hair. Everyone else was not allowed to wear a hat because they were trying to show off the fact that it was designed to ride without a helmet. He had shorts and t-shirt, sunglasses, and tennis shoes on. Didn't have a scratch on him. So, in fact, while it did a lot of cosmetic damage to one side, 10 minutes later we're all riding again. But they were designed so that BMW could change their fleet fuel economy rate.
Oh,
Okay? At the same time that this was being built, which is why they needed that vehicle classification to count it with their cars, Mercedes built the smart car.
all right.
This always had a specific life expectancy from BMW standpoint, and their target was not us, but all the people that didn't ride motorcycles or scooters, but might consider something else. There's two levers inside. One of them raises and lowers the front forks, the other one raises and lowers the center stand. It takes about as much effort as pouring a half a gallon of milk in a cardboard container to do that. Again, designed to make it easier for people that didn't ride and would want to do stuff like that. We have smart cars still because Roger Penske stepped in and said, I'm a big Mercedes dealer, you're not going to stop making this thing. We're going to start selling more of them. And so he ruled the roost to convince Mercedes to do that. And then they eventually took it back after the 5-year plan they had. But BMW drew the line. This one was done as a prototype for BMW. They gave it to a local Munich company that said, we can show you a whole new world of graphics. And this is done before they were really getting good with the helmet graphics. So this is essentially the same type of thing that they use for helmets. It's not a vinyl wrap, it's not paint. It's a molded on heat process and it's sort of permanent. And BMW, conservative company that they were, was afraid that if somebody damaged a car, a motorcycle, or a Mini Cooper, that they wouldn't be able to match up the panels. The company is saying, we can match up anything. And by the way, notice we make a point not to match panels perfectly anyway. So, you know, if you would cover that with sunflowers or German flags or anything else, they wouldn't perfectly line up. And I literally was in the right place at the right time. The week that we went over to Germany, to Nürburgring, and the Nürburgring track for the introduction of the K1200S, we pay our own way. They put on a good party, but we pay our own way. But the track time was fun. And I had arranged, because typically these things, you're spending a day, day and a half, depending where in the world you're going, flying in, flying out, and you'll be there for a day and a half. And we did enough tours with customers over the years. I said, I'm going to start organizing some tours for my fellow dealers. And so we took a 7-day Alps tour and crammed it into 5 days. Not that we can ride faster or better than most of our customers, but we're willing to spend more time in the saddle as well. So we did that. So right after the meeting, we took a quick flight to Munich. We get in about 9:30, get to our hotel at 10, and none of the other dealers that are with me on this trip, I think there were 7 of us, had ever been to BMW's Zentrum stores, their main store in Munich. And I said, look, it's 6 or 7 blocks. Let's walk down. We'll get a beer on the way back. We'll get up early tomorrow morning and get on our bikes and go ride. And so we walked down there, and this is sitting in the showroom window. Now, I don't know if it's a display, but I've been after a C1 for a long time. They dressed up 6 or 7 for the Formula One races. And I now have one of those at home. It took longer than I expected to get one. The person at BMW that said I can pull this off moved on to BMW Financial Services, lost his contacts. But this was in the window, and there was no price tag that I could see on the outside. And we're being picked up at 9 o'clock at the hotel to get our bikes to go spend 5 days riding. And I said, the service department opens at 8 o'clock here. And I was back there at a quarter to 8 waiting for them to open the door. And I said, you need to let me see the other side of this scooter. And there was a price tag in on the other side. And I said, you got to take my money. He says, I can't do that. He says, somebody here, he says, the used car manager might be it. And at 8:15, the used car manager took my credit card. I bought it. And the amusing part is I said, how long has it been here? Because we put it in when we closed last night. I'm going, oh my God, my timing is so perfect. So I know I paid for it.
Right time.
I know I paid for it, but I want to save you some trouble. Can you get it out of the showroom this morning? And they said, sure, no problem. I said, I'll have my freight forwarder contact you next week. And 6 days later, when I get back home, there's a fax on my desk. This is still some old school communication, even from BMW. And they said, sorry, we didn't get it off the floor in time. We didn't take anyone else's money, but some guy from New York showed up and wants to offer you 1,000 Deutsche marks more because we're not in Euro territory yet. And you paid for it. And I said, you are welcome to give him my name and fax number and phone number. I'm not selling it, but I'll happy to have a conversation. My timing was that close.
Oh, wow. Did you drive it here?
This has got a battery charger plugged into it. So I shipped it over. It took, I really got lucky with DOT. My Duetto took almost a year to bring in the country.
Oh, wow.
I pulled this off in about 6 months. So I've got, it's the only legal C1 in the United States.
Wow.
I like the fact that I have a title for another one, okay? Because it was smuggled into the country, and some states will do that. There's maybe 24 of them in the country, but none of them, maybe 2 or 3 have titles. This has got the only legitimate paperwork for C1.
When was this made?
What? 2001, I think.
But is this registered as a motorcycle or as a car?
Motorcycle.
Okay.
How unique is this?
The mirror?
Yeah, this whole incorporated piece.
Well, once upon a time, you could buy one with that mounting bracket for less than $20. And
How much is it now?
add several zeros.
Wow, that's
No, they're worth a couple of grand.
Yeah.
So about 2,500.
Yeah.
They're in that condition.
just that.
There's 2 versions. There's a large mirror and a small mirror. Unfortunately, I've got a crack in this one. And then also the convex mirror.
So my thought is leave it, but I must say, because it does seem...
Passed by our warranty administrator and 27 other jobs.
All right, cool.
I'm assuming most of you have probably been in this space before, so just a really quick overview. We designed this so that customers can come in here out of the weather if it's not a nice day. More efficient for us to ride up a bike that's right here, except for Saturdays. And Daryl and Tony are our 2 dedicated advisors. The customer lounge in there is dedicated for customers. We put information in there, but we do our best not to sell in there. So it deserves a space to hang out. We typically have at least 1 police bike here. This is our current demonstrator. And next Maryland State Police officer is about to pick this up. He runs a professional school because he's going to be doing some demonstrations for us in a couple of weeks out in Timonium. And that is Maryland State Police's service on it. After watching us give customers service on this, because they bought their bike here when their bike was in service, they came to us and said, "Do we have a service on it?" And I said, "Yeah, but yours is sort of specialized." I said, "Well, we have a bike that's about to be, could either go to auction, but it's so young and nice," and I said, "Bring it in." We did a complete end-to-end just to freshen up a bit. And so it stays here most of the time. They call us and say, "Hey, we got a flat car, we need to get it away." Anything else, if we can't get them in and out in 15 minutes, and they just swap saddlebag contents and away they ride.
Are you doing the DC MPD sales and a new bike?
We did. We sold 33 bikes to MPD, just delivered them out. That was half the fleet for him, and for the other half, upcoming, we have 6 bikes, actually either 4 or all 6 of them showed up this week for Baltimore County Police. They will be black and whites like this. We're building 4 special order colors for the Delaware State Police in Germany right now. And we have 2 or 4 bikes that are about to be assembled that are painted for the Maryland State Police as well. And we just, we're probably this close to getting a purchase order from Montgomery County for 6 bikes.
That's the latest lighting configuration?
This is actually a 2020.
Okay.
The 2020 one,
Checking your bike right now.
exception that
Is that stalling? Do you have installing issues with the bike?
Yeah, it was a part of a recall, but it's still sawing when it idles. Instead of idling, it just cuts off.
Gotcha, okay. So I'll chat with the guys. Normally we don't do diagnostics on Saturdays. It is a bit of a light day, so we might be able to take a look. We'll definitely take care of the brake fluid. We'll let you know.
All right, okay.
more like this than like that, but they've got the takedown or alley lights that are down below here.
They'll actually run like that, or you equip that differently? That's equipped state regulation.
They have them, we bid and then build them to spec, okay? But over time, as stuff comes along and they decided we ought to do an inspection use on a regular basis, we've added a rider.
Can we put that on our civilian bikes as long as it doesn't confuse with police? Like, get out of the way and sirens and stuff, and maybe orange light.
Coming here, I can sell you one of these bikes,
Oh,
okay? Without the lights.
yeah.
Okay, and without the siren. We can put other lights on the mounting brackets, all that stuff. But a lot of people, we sell 5 or 6 a year. I've got 2 special order colors that are built just for us because it's a neat solo touring package. and it comes with extra crash guards and some other things.
Yeah. And
It's
it's
got a dual battery system, so you can run all your lights and stuff off of one and the bike off the other.
I saw one in Skytop. He
Right.
purchased it. And we got it from you and that bike. He's a vet, driver vet.
Absolutely, and we do sell some, we are allowed to sell some to escort services, ex-law enforcement, because sometimes they'll come back and do
Yeah, he's got
things.
the escorts. He's got that sticker
Right.
on him with the escort, yeah.
Technically, if I covered this with black duct tape, and you signed a form that said I will not run these lights unless I'm at a show, or something like that, we could probably do it, but we try to be a little conservative. I don't want to have law enforcement saying, Bob, you stole another bike with lights on. The guy that was chasing it.
Be on you like.
Right. I would just spread out in the middle.
all right. Cool.